Welcome to the show, everybody. Today we're diving deep into the dark and fascinating world of gangs. We're talking about the most brutal, the most ruthless, the ones who left their mark on history with violence and fear. From the cobblestone streets of Birmingham to the favelas of Rio de Janeiro, these gangs have woven themselves into the fabric of their cities, for better or worse. We're going to look at the Peaky Blinders, the 5 Points Gang, the Yakuza, Mississippi, 13 the heavy hitters. Get ready for some crazy stories, because some of this stuff you wouldn't believe unless you saw it with your own two eyes. Welcome to our deep dive into the most brutal local gangs in history. These guys were the real deal, man. Imagine Birmingham, England, late 1800s. Industrial revolution's booming, but there's a dark side. Poverty's rampant, and that's where the Peaky Blinders thrived. They were known for their signature-style flat caps with razor blades sewn in. They'd use them in fights, slashing at their enemies' faces and eyes. They ran the streets, controlling gambling rings, extorting businesses, and weren't afraid to get their hands dirty with a little robbery and violence. Now let's head over to the 5 Points neighborhood in New York City. This place in the 19th century was like a melting pot of crime. The 5 Points gang, made up mostly of Irish immigrants, were the kings of this chaotic world. They were into everything, robbery, murder, you name it, but their real moneymaker was racketeering, extorting businesses, promising protection from, well, themselves. They set the stage for the mafia and all the big-time gangsters that came after. This gang, man, they're still around today, and they're considered the most notorious in New Zealand. They started back in the 60s, formed by a group of Maori guys who felt like they were on the outs of society. Over the years, they've been linked to all sorts of criminal activities: drug trafficking, extortion, murder. The Bra Boys hail from Maroubra Beach in Sydney, Australia. These guys are all about surfing, but they're also deeply connected to the criminal underworld. Their reputation took a darker turn as they became involved in violence, drug dealing and turf wars. They're seen as both protectors and criminals, blurring the lines between good and evil. The Richardson gang ran South London in the 60s, notorious for their brutality. These guys were hardcore criminals involved in everything from armed robbery to protection rackets. But what set them apart was their love of torture, using everything from pliers to blowtorches. They were locked in a vicious turf war with the Cray twins, another infamous London gang. The streets were a battleground, and innocent people often got caught in the crossfire. The Medellin cartel, led by the infamous Pablo Escobar, turned Colombia into the cocaine capital of the world. At the height of their power, they were smuggling tons of cocaine into the US, making billions of dollars and leaving a trail of blood in their wake. Escobar was a ruthless killer, but he was also seen as a kind of Robin Hood figure by some, giving back to the poor and building schools and hospitals. The war on drugs was in full swing, and the US government was determined to bring Escobar down. Brazil has its own share of gang problems, and the Primeiro Comando da Capital, or PCC, is one of the most powerful and feared. This gang was born in the brutal Brazilian prison system, where inmates are left to their own devices. They control drug trafficking, extortion, and other criminal activities both inside and outside prison walls. They've been linked to numerous prison riots and attacks on law enforcement. Los Zetas are another gang that takes brutality to a whole other level. These guys are ex-military, many of them trained in special forces tactics. They deserted the Mexican army and put their skills to work in the criminal underworld. They quickly gained a reputation for their extreme violence, carrying out massacres, beheadings, and other horrific acts. The Crips, man, they're one of the most well-known gangs in the world. They were formed in Los Angeles in the late 60s, and they quickly spread across the US. They were known for their blue bandanas and their bitter rivalry with the Bloods, another LA gang. The Crips have been linked to drug trafficking, murder, robbery, and all sorts of other crimes. And, of course, you can't talk about the Crips without talking about their arch-nemesis, the Bloods. They also emerged in Los Angeles in the early 70s, and they quickly became one of the largest and most dangerous gangs in the country. They were known for their red bandanas and their fierce rivalry with the Crips. Like the Crips, the Bloods have been involved in all sorts of criminal activities, from drug trafficking to murder. That was a trip, right? We've covered some seriously heavy stuff today. These gangs, they might be from different parts of the world, different backgrounds, but they all have one thing in common. They've left a trail of violence and destruction in their wake. But it's important to remember that there's always more to the story. These gangs are often a symptom of larger societal problems: poverty, inequality, lack of opportunity. And the people who join them, they're often just trying to survive, to find a sense of belonging, even if it's in the most dangerous of places. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and check out more content on the fascinating world of organized crime.